Back here on CBS Sports HQ, presented by Belfour. This CBS postgame report is presented by Belfour Property Restoration. Jeremiah Smith getting into the end zone. 19 touchdowns since the start of last season. That was a tough play there by Washington to try to stuff him, and not able to stuff C.J. Donaldson. 2 touchdowns in this game for him. Ohio State victorious 24-6. Back here in studio, Emory Hunt, Cardale Jones. Cardale, I'll give you first word here. Ohio State alum, national champion. That right there was a national championship performance on the road in your Big Ten opener. What did you see?
For sure. I mean, there's 3 things you need to pack on the road with you, especially when you talk about Big Ten play. It's toughness, run game, and defense. Ohio State brought all 3 of them. And if you want to throw in a turnover battle, I know they had a turnover early, but when you have a suffocating defense like the Buckeyes have, they can mitigate those turnovers, and it really doesn't have a huge impact on the overall success of the game. But when you talk about their rushing, rush for almost 150 yards versus a team that's really good and having a running back that's considered one of the top running backs in the country and probably the top running back in the Big Ten, and then holding these guys to 61 yards. And you talking about the toughness, so many tackles in the backfield, so many sacks for this Ohio State defense. To make a Washington offense who scored over 50 points last week in the Apple Cup look very mediocre at home, riding on a 22-win streak game at home since last time they lost at home was 2001. That was a very impressive win for the Buckeyes, and that is a momentum and confidence builder for those young players on both sides of the ball.
I love how recency bias tends to take over a lot of times, and we go into these ball games expecting Ohio State to look like Ohio State in their heyday with all of these explosive playmakers averaging 40-plus points a game. But this was a team that's trying to find its identity, and I thought they did a great job today in showing you, okay, we can play any type of game you want to play. We got enough out the running game. We did enough out the passing game. This game was won by their defense, and Cardale touched on it, how they just dominated Washington up and down the field, especially inside the red zone, forcing those field goals. And they were, 10 on
11
on third down. So, I mean, you win situational football. You made timely plays in the passing game. You made timely plays in the run game. We got to see the growth and development of a future Buckeye star in Bo Jackson running the football. So I thought this was a really good game, considering the opponent, considering the situation they were in, and considering how the game started. Washington
was sluggish.
It was sluggish, and Washington looked like they were going to go down there and just kind of go up double digits on Ohio State. And Ohio State found their sea legs and got the job done.
Well, you saw what happened. Ohio State gets a stop and a punt, and then it's a terrible punt by Washington. Ohio State has the ball at the 50. I mean, you're thinking, okay, it's going to be 7-0 here in a couple minutes. Ohio State gets stuffed. Then there's a fumble on a kickoff. Then there's some penalties, and it's just a sloppy going. But then you see Julian Sayin. He missed a couple throws early, but then he makes that perfect throw on the crossing route to Jeremiah Smith, and they made it look really easy. What did you see on that play? Because that was what gave them the lead, and they didn't relinquish.
You know what? This is my favorite part about this, being able to dissect and really get deep into a play. This was a masterpiece by the play caller, the execution, and clearly the quarterback as well. For a young freshman quarterback to have a free hitter in his face and knowing what he's have to do. So this is clear out blitz 0, miscommunication by Washington. They didn't pass off the communication with the switch release by Jeremiah Smith, and I think that's Brandon Ennis down there. And it's pretty much a tunnel screen to the opposite side of the field. Knowing that this team was going to give you blitz 0, knowing that you was going to beat them with this tunnel screen, and it worked. And it worked to perfection. But when you talk about the poise and he got a guy right in his face, right? Being able to change his arm angle to get it to Jeremiah Smith and Jeremiah Smith do the rest. We watching a young guy grow up right before our eyes, and Julian Sayin making these type of plays in such big moments like this. That's not easy. I can tell you why it's not easy. One, you got a guy wide open, so those are always the hardest passes. And then 2, you got another guy screaming right in your face after Julian was already hit a few times after getting the ball. So he showed some toughness, he showed some growth, and the biggest thing for me, what he showed today on the road is poise.
And I love how he stayed married to his technique, because when you saw how quickly he got deep into his drop with his
that is the knowing what's going on around him, knowing where my free hitter is coming from, knowing how to get the ball out, knowing how to change my arm angle. That's growth. Right, another guy, probably a young guy in that environment. I mean, still 4 games into his young redshirt freshman career at Ohio State. He's playing like he's been doing this before.
If we take his silo performance versus Texas and pair it with this game, to your point, the growth has been tremendous, because he looked calm as all outdoors in this ball game. Even on that play, Cardale touched on a guy in his face. He knew where he was going with the football and put it perfectly. He didn't overshot him. He threw it right where it needed to be so he can continue to catch and run. And even throughout the ballgame, he took some hellacious shots and was still staring down a gun barrel and throwing the football downfield or completing passes downfield. And I like his poise. I like how he showed command of this offense and really played a good game. Where you saw on the other side, Williams kind of collapsed under the pressure under the moment. He slipped a lot of times out there. We didn't see Sayin do anything like that. He kind of stayed on pace, stayed on schedule, and got the win in a tough environment. So this was an extremely pleasant game for me to watch this young guy grow up.
Well, the reason Ohio State gives Washington its first home loss since 2021 was also because of the defense. We had questions. How would Matt Patricia come in? How would they pick up the slack right when Jim Knowles leaves? And he's disguising coverages. He's moving guys around. We saw Caden Curry, the defensive end, just cooking right here. They're able to essentially silence Washington, and that's what Cardale said. They're coming in at 55.7, but then you'll go, well, they didn't really play anybody. And you can make that argument. That's fine. You're playing the number one team in the country. But the consistency, Emory, that for me is the takeaway here. They didn't go outside of their identity.
What I love, what I saw defensively from Ohio State today, great open field tackling team. We rarely saw broken tackles or missed opportunities to get a guy on the ground. And to me, that's what a lot of teams fail against Washington, especially against Jonah Coleman, the outstanding tailback. He's about my size, and so he has a low center of gravity, and he's breaking those tackles. But this game, Ohio State, everyone that touched football for Washington and that was met by an Ohio State defender, the ball was dead on the spot. It was no extra yards, nothing like that. And that's how you get to be 1 out of 11 on third downs. And I love the fact that this team was showing great technique, consistent throughout the course of the ball game, and got those stops when necessary.
Yeah, so this is a great group of collective individuals on the defensive side of the ball, starting on the front end with Cade Curry. You backing up to you talking about Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, and then clearly on the back end with guys like Jermaine Mathews Jr. And then you can't forget about the All-American safety, Caleb Downs. And then you even talk about getting deep into their rotation of guys up front and on the back end. It's hard to find flaws or issues with this Ohio State defense because they play so well together. And the great part about this defense is this: they're rarely in bad position. You don't see any blown coverages, even if the guy get a play downfield, because that's going to happen every once in a while when you're playing great competitors and great teams. Because, I mean, clearly, let's be honest, they do some coaches and scouting they well. It's multiple hats at the ball carrier. This is signs of a great defense, and when you playing a great defense like this, when you have a great defense like this as a young quarterback, and your defense only gave up less than 25 points in the first 4 games of the season, you got a chance, and that's another thing that can help you with that confidence, right? Knowing that these guys got your back no matter what situation you potentially put them in.
You got Texas, Washington, and you got to play good defenses, so you got the chance to grow on the fly. So this was really good for Julian Sayin, but the defense, you're right. Team defense is always hard to beat. We talk about those service academies and teams like that. That's exactly what this was today.
22 points, the fewest points allowed through 4 games since 1973 for Ohio State. Ryan Day was on with me on Friday. I think he's going to have to join me every Friday so we can talk ball.
You get a Buckeyes ticket this week.
I should. I should get a sticker. I'd like to have a sticker. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe I'll talk to Cardale.
His face paint.
Maybe you know a guy.
Where do we see resistance here? Penn State, and then the last game of the season. That's what I see. We'll see what happens. Ohio State off to a 4-0 start. They go on the road and win their Big Ten opener over Washington 24-6 on CBS.